Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Creator Circle. I'm your host, Lucy, and today we are here with special guest Krebs. He is actually a Twitch streamer and tournament organizer. And so, without further ado, I want to introduce you to Krebs.
Hello, hi everyone.
Hi, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, most stuff. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, to get started, I kind of want to go back in time and I want to know from an early childhood perspective, are there any influences or things that you really liked as a child that you think led to what you do now or sort of fed your passion now? Like, for example, TV shows, movies, characters, things like that.
Well, namely I would say like to start from the very, very beginning. Growing up, I had an older brother who was 6 years older than me. And so he got me into all of the cool games. So Smash Bros from the age of like 4 or 5, maybe even younger than that. I was the best Smash player at my daycare, right? Um, and I was just always like such a gamer. Like a new game would come out and I'd play it for 10 to 20 hours straight, you know.
Wow.
And I'd say like my first taste into like what really got me into this realm was in high school when there was a 55 student tournament,
Mhm.
and it was a Super Smash Bros. Brawl tournament, and I came out on top. I won.
Wow.
Um, yeah, in fact, it was even my friend and I in grand finals. We were just that much above, you know. So that really fueled my interest, and that was in 2012. And across the next 10 years, um, there have been all kinds of journeys and things that led me to where I am now, as a variety streamer. Yeah.
Yeah. And so your all your channels say that you started about 4 years ago, which if my math is correct, was a little bit pre-pandemic, but then like a year in was the pandemic and the shutdown. How do
Mhm.
you feel that the shutdown and just, the pandemic influenced your streaming? Did it help? Did it cause any anxiety on your part? How did that influence you?
Well, for the most part, everyone saw a bump higher in viewership because of everyone being home,
Right.
but there was also more streamers because everyone was home.
Hmm.
Um, it's well, in a way, that and coincidentally, Fall Guys coming out in August of 2020 led to me being able to take a deeper dive. And basically, I was working two jobs and streaming at the time. And so this bump, as well as Fall Guys coming out and kind of basically making a name for myself as one of the best players at the game for it, and committing to it um as like a majority stream game basically. um that led to me being able to quit one of my two jobs and focus more on streaming.
Isn't that the goal for all of us to like take what we love and are passionate about and enjoy doing and turn it into some form of like livelihood? So that's really cool. And I
Yeah.
want to talk about Fall Guys. I actually researched when it came out because I'm evidently behind the eight ball. I didn't know anything about it until about a year ago. Actually, through
Hmm.
our mutual friend Tomas, he told my boyfriend, and then that's how it happened. But
Hmm.
so it sounds like you were part of like the original group that started playing the game. I want to know, how have you seen it change since then, and what do you think is next in Fall Guys, and how do you think it will keep continue to evolve and keep people engaged?
Well, the community has certainly changed. There used to be tournaments every month or every few weeks, and nowadays it's much more so about like community games and like stream content and whatnot. Far less competitive stuff.
Hmm.
Um, but I would say since creative maps came out a few months ago, that's kind of the next main thing for the game. Like it still is, and it had a nice blow up from it, but it's like I post TikToks now, and they'll like blow up, and I get questions like, what, Fall Guys has custom maps now? And it's just people aren't really aware of it. And so I think as more and more people become aware, that'll like, I won't say it'll necessarily grow as a game, but it'll offset people that quit the game. So the game is here to stay, at least.
Mhm.
um yeah, that's about what I would say.
So, two questions, and they're sort of unrelated. One, do you ever get tired of the game? And two, do you have any, and maybe it's like magicians don't reveal their tricks, any tactics or special methods that you use? Because I'm not a gamer by any means, but I like am always falling off. And it's so frustrating because then you keep falling and falling and falling until the timer runs out, and then you're like, SOL.
Hmm. Yeah, and well, I guess in my case, I'd be the magician that revealed all of his tricks. I love helping. I've done all kinds of research over the years, in a variety of things, like especially stream success, like content. Um, following some of the words of the wise and whatnot. And so spread that as much as I can. Um, so as far as like Fall Guys itself, um, so it's been like a personal help, but also a professional like detriment that I always balance it with other games.
Mhm.
Um, so I've always like had in mind like, hey, I'm going to outlive Fall Guys stream career wise, you
Right.
know?
Mhm.
So there were times where I'm like half Fall Guys, half something else. There were times where it was like a very low percentage, and I just kept it to like a one consistent evening so that people knew to expect it on that night. Which is mostly the case these days. Wednesdays and Thursday nights are Fall Guys nights, and Monday and Tuesday are variety. So that's pretty much how I did it. There's a number of other things too, like whenever I was in the thick of it, thick of competitions and trying to stay competitive, and I was top 10 in the US and top 50 in the world, um, I would get 1 crown per day on or off stream. And that was like a part of my like little daily regimen to like practice and stay competitive.
Wow, that is crazy because, like, I think my boyfriend has won. I don't, again, I'm not a gamer, so I don't even know how many rounds there are to like end up as the one. I think he's won once. I've never
Mhm.
even made it past like round three. So that is really something to say, like top 50 in the world. That's crazy. And wow, that just really blows my mind. I actually, what you were talking about, how like sometimes you dedicate like Wednesdays and Thursdays are specifically for this, so people are, um, they're waiting for it, they expect it. That sort of alludes to a question that I had, which was take us through a week in your life. Do you pre-plan? Is it a spur of the moment decision? How do you go about deciding what you do when?
Definitely. So, I stream Monday through Thursday, and I take 3 days off. And stream schedules like that, 3 or 4 days a week, are definitely what most people recommend, myself included. You need time to make shorts, to make TikToks, to plan things on or promote things on Twitter, just all kinds of various surrounding things. Um, so yeah, Monday through Thursday is the stream week, 4 evenings a week. And since I'm off Tuesday and Wednesday nights from work, I do really long streams on those nights. Sometimes like streams that are really easy to add time to, like a charity-thon stream where every $10 to the charity adds an hour to my stream. And so I've had a number of streams by now, that have been 40 to 50 hours long with sleep breaks included.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, and with my other job, which is really chill, it's a really chill overnight job where I don't do much of anything. I'm able to relax, recollect myself, um, recharge my social battery, because streaming is definitely that.
Mhm.
It's definitely draining on the social battery. Um, and also plan out the week, plan out eventful things, things that I think my community and I would really enjoy doing.
Yeah, that is a really interesting perspective. You know, being online and in an online community of any capacity, we talk about introverts and extroverts in the external world in real life and how like you need to go back home and charge your batteries, recharge your batteries. But I've never really translated that into the online community. So it's interesting that you mentioned that you do need that break and it's mentally exhausting in the same way. And so I wonder how that will influence the world moving forward as technology continues to grow and innovate and just influence our lives.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I have a 6-year-old daughter, and I can just imagine like all the sorts of things I'm gonna help her like have to sort through. Time offline and private time is very important, and I feel like as with all these social medias engaging us so hard, it's going to be important to like set time for set quiet time. Yeah,
Right. Yeah. That's another really interesting perspective. I think about the next generation and obviously each generation has experienced something different with, the influence of technology over time. But in our reality now and kids that are just now growing up and how different things must be, it will be interesting to see how their day to day ends up playing out and how they balance the two realities of like online versus, you know, in person and things like that.
for sure, for sure. Yeah.
And speaking of, so how do you think fatherhood has influenced your streaming? Do you think it plays a role or not so much?
It's definitely extremely challenging because in the streaming and content creator space, there is no limit to things you can do to help. Like there is no off button, basically. It's like there's a constant pressure of like, oh, there's another TikTok I can make. Oh, there's another YouTube Shorts I can make. Oh, there's um I don't know, another streamer friend I could make. Like there's no limit. So it's honestly very hard. And there's a lot of other streamer parents that can relate and stuff. Um so I would say like stream career wise, but for one, I would always choose fatherhood over, stream career.
Mhm.
Um, Stream career wise, it hurts because like I don't have as much free time to dedicate to it. But in some ways, it also helps because there's a number of community members that really respect everything I do as a father, and I share certain things here and there, like I play Animal Crossing with my daughter or all sorts of other things. So it's like it's mostly a detriment, but at the same time, it like people tend to respect that I balance all of these things.
That's great that you have a community that respects you in that way. Because I know when you get in the online world, there's no telling how people will react. And it's really good to surround yourself and develop a community where not only like respect is um, foremost, but and first, but just that new people coming in still understand that and respect it as well. And I think it's interesting because in my growing up, I played like a bunch of Wii and Super Mario and whatever. But
Mhm.
my dad was quite a bit older than me. And I was the youngest of five. So I was like the baby, and he's way past playing Super Mario with me and things like that. So I think it's
Mhm.
cool that you have the unique opportunity to connect with your daughter on things like that, things that she likes to do, and things that you enjoy at the same time. You guys can bond in that area.
Yeah, yeah, most stuff. Yeah, I am always the one that's introducing her to cool things. Sonic, all the Legos, Mario and all of these things. So I think as when she's older, teenager and beyond, I think she'll be pretty popular for being like so well versed in all these cool things.
Yeah, and that's such a special time in like the parent-child relationship when you're still like influencing them in such a cool way. I think about the stereotypical teenager when they're like, okay, dad, whatever. But
Hmm.
you're at a point now where she's like engaged with and interested in learning what you have to show her. And I hope that relationship continues to grow and that she's always coming to you for new and cool things. That's very awesome for you.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so let's see. What do you think is the most tedious part of what you do?
Most tedious. At least for me, I would say either external content like TikTok and YouTube Shorts, because as fun as it is to even rewatch it, and as much of a dopamine rush it is to see all the likes and stuff coming in, it's still definitely a task. And I am definitely a perfectionist in that, like, it'll take me 30 minutes to an hour to get the edits right on even just the shortest clip. And that's after I've become like really used to the programs that I use. Like that's an efficient 30 minutes to an hour.
Right.
Um, but besides that, another factor, and it's kind of more specific to me than most streamers, is implementing new effects. That I for the longest time I dedicated about an hour a week to that. Um, and that sometimes there's like headaches involved with like setting things up in a certain way, and the effects that I use are very elaborate, so sometimes it's like a puzzle to solve with a bit of a delay here and there to sync up this video and this audio. It can become very tricky.
Yeah, I think um, going back to something that you said earlier about how the world sort of never turns off, you think about the online community, not only are people like in your current time zone staying up, but there are also people an ocean away that are up and it's their regular day to day. And so the world literally never turns off at this point. And, you mentioned keeping up with all these different platforms and all of this content that you're sort of like, people expect you to produce it. It's definitely with the world not turning off and everybody doing something new all the time and new trends coming out every second, it's difficult to keep up. I know myself, I really only promote like this show and I do the content for this show, but it's definitely hard to try and stay on top of everything. And it's almost feels like you're expected to, if you want to play in that space, you have to be able to keep up with the pace. And it's a lot considering. And so I can imagine how difficult it must be with you, and you're on a ton more platforms than I am. And so I can't imagine what it must be like to try and keep up with it all. So kudos, but I hope that it gets easier with time and that things start to play more in our favor where it's not so complicated. Um,
Hmm.
and with regard to the effects and implementing all of that, it's interesting how much goes into the behind the scenes work that is sometimes hard for people to understand if they're just consumers and they don't participate in the creation process. I know for me, like I'm not doing anything out of this world or special per se, but I'll try to create reels, and it's particularly frustrating working on like a phone because it's such a small device, and then there's like delays or there's a glitch or something, and you're like fighting against the technology that's supposed to be helping you. And I've multiple times come across where I do like I edit the entire reel, I have everything that I want in it, all of the text and on the movements and everything, and then like it crashes or something doesn't save or
Hmm.
whatever, and it's just so disheartening because you're like, I spent so long fixing that and now I have to do it again. So
Hmm.
it's very tedious. And I think as consumers, even outside of this world, but in general, we tend not to take into consideration the craft that goes behind what we end up consuming. And so I hope everybody from here on out can take more time to appreciate all the work that goes into everything that we end up seeing at the end of the day.
Yeah, most definitely. And I mean, everything that I've been doing has led to a deeper appreciation for movies and TV shows, and just all of the things involved, whether that's like effects or the acting, or I listened to a bit of episode 3 of your podcast, and hearing some of Tomas there, it was, yeah, very, very nice.
Yeah. And so what do you think, apart from, the tedious work and everything, what excites you most about playing or streaming in general?
Um, well, I'd say it's kind of a specific thing to me. Um, it's the fact that I'm able to do, for the most part, whatever I want, and the community is very understanding that it's like streaming and doing these things is something that I do to help with like mental health and everything, and they really respect that. And sometimes, like in the rare like one off, like every few weeks or months or however long it would be, I'll play a game that's like, look, I'm not going to blow up on TikTok for this game, like this old looking RPG. Like, we're not going to blow up for this, but we're just going to enjoy this and do a long stream of this, and people have been along for the ride, and that's been really nice.
That is really great. I mean, that just goes back to the community that you've developed and the people that you surround yourself with. That's so important. And, part of the reason that I started this show in the first place, and a point that I like to touch on, is that putting any kind of creation that you're developing, that you're participating in, out into the world is part of yourself. It's being vulnerable, showing what you do or what you like. And so the fact that your community is not so demanding of, well, I don't want to see that, I want to see this, but appreciates and respects the fact that sometimes I don't want to do that and I'm the one creating it. So come along with me, or
Mhm.
come around when you want to see what I'm doing next. That's just a really great thing for you. But I think just in general for the creative community, that we can realize that there are people out there who just want us to do what we like and are here for the ride.
Yeah, yeah, most definitely. And the way I like to like phrase it too is like long Octopath Traveler stream for the soul, you know? And people really, really vibe with that.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned soul, because putting yourself out there is so much of like a soul work. It's, I think it comes from the soul, and it's important to feed that part of yourself so that you're not, starving it for what you really want to do just to produce something that somebody else wants to see. If it's your soul, you need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself at the end of the day and ensuring that that's what you want. And so if it's not 100% you, then it's not really authentic, and in my opinion, I don't think it's the best that you could do, because you're not all
Mm.
in. So I
Yeah,
really like that you describe it that way, and I like that you include the word soul.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
And so in your time, it doesn't have to be in streaming, just in general, in playing video games and in being part of this world, how have you seen the industry change over time? Do you think the pandemic has influenced it at all? And where do you think, like, I know there's a lot of technological innovation around VR and things like that. Where do you think it's headed next? What do you think is the next big thing? What are you most looking forward to?
Well, there's a number of things I could talk about as far as like the evolvement, the evolving of the live streaming space. It's definitely changed tremendously. In the mid 2010s, during the advent of it, you could definitely just be one of the first people, and you didn't have to be necessarily very engaging. And honestly, like a lot of the big creators right now, and I'm talking about like Ninja, Pokimane, a number of big creators. If you actually watch their stream, it's not incredibly engaging compared to other people that are starting to come up. And when I say other people that are starting to come up, I'm talking about like the Sushi Dragon, for example, who has a warehouse and the most insane like effects you could think of, where he just makes live music videos all the time and just improvises and does all these things. He's walking around with all these green screens and doing all these things. Like I pop in at a random time and his face transforms into like a Terminator and opens up, and just all these crazy things. So the bar is higher now, and you can't grow just by doing it anymore. You have to, as far as live streaming goes, really like filter in interest from other platforms,
Mhm.
um, which I'm sure people hear all the time, like it's all about short form content for growth. Yeah. And it's it's about sticking out and being special for something. Like in my case, it was like being one of the best players in the world at Fall Guys, and also like organizing events on my stream, and also all of the effects. Nowadays I have something like over 150 different effects, so I'm kind of like known for that as well. um so it's definitely way tougher. um and you're competing with so many other people that are doing it as a hobby, or doing it for all sorts of reasons. It's very tough, and what I would say to anyone aspiring to be a creator, a live streamer, a YouTuber, anything like that, is to, of course, have their ducks in a row and to do it on the side and let any growth happen naturally.
Mhm. Yeah, I think in today's world with just like the influx of media and all of these creators of all kinds on different platforms that have like rose to superstardom basically, it's
Mhm.
very easy to fall into the trap of thinking, I can do that overnight, or I can make a reel just like that and the same thing happen, when in reality it's very much what you've said. Like if you entered early, then you're here now and that's a benefit to you, versus if you're trying to enter now, you have to do something different, something crazy to stand out, to make you the next big thing. And I think it's really easy to get blindsided by just the reality of all these creators that are online. They're like, this is a day in my life or whatever. When again, like there's so much more that goes into the the end product, and you have to stay ahead of everything or do something completely different, which is really interesting.
For sure. Yeah. Like a prime example, I saw a YouTube video recently that was like a day in my life, but like this YouTuber did a spin on it where it was like a reality show edition, something like that.
Mhm.
And it was very like straightforward. It was like, oh, I skipped out on this to go to a baseball game and whatever. And just like having like the production mind, I noticed like it was extremely well captioned, extremely well edited. I was like blown away. And this is a creator that, if I remember right, she's a 19-year-old girl that just like did all this insane editing. I was like, damn.
Mhm.
So it really just goes to show that there's a lot that goes into it that people may not notice.
Right. And I think like the creators are getting younger and younger. It's interesting that you mentioned she was 19. I've seen people on like reels recently that are literally in elementary school taking me through like a get ready with me for elementary school. And I'm like, I can't imagine in elementary school like doing all that. I barely even got out of bed to make it to school on time. So it's
Hmm.
crazy. I will be very interested to see how the whole landscape changes in the coming years with technology not only innovating but the users just getting younger and younger and younger. So it'll definitely be really interesting to see how that ends up happening. I mean, these people are still going to school and things like that. So how they're able to do so much is crazy to me, but to each their own.
Yeah, I mean, one thing's for sure, they're very driven for it. Like, I'm sure that kid was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to make this get ready with me video," you know?
Yeah. And it's crazy because she's like more popular than I am. I'm like, I've been around on social media for a few years now. How have you already, shot up there? And again, it's just like being consistent and staying up to date. And influence, like gathering your audiences from all different aspects of your outreach. So if you're on multiple channels, and driving it to what you're doing next, and ensuring that it gets, whatever kind of viewership you're looking for is really, I guess they're all strategizing now. In third grade, I was not thinking about that, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, social media is pretty big for the kiddos, and it's just so like hyper engaging. It's definitely something as a parent that I'm having to navigate carefully.
Right. Yeah. I mean, myself, I feel like there's so much coming at you at all times that it's obviously like it's sort of addicting. It is addicting in nature. You want to keep consuming, you want to see the next thing, you want to continue to laugh, you want to whatever. But sometimes it's just so important to not engage, to turn it off, to like experience real life, to feel the wind and the grass in your feet, and just be like, it doesn't have to be moving at a million miles per minute all the time. It's sort of exhausting in that way, just to even consume um, all of everything that is out there.
Yeah, most definitely. Sure is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So to wrap up today, is there anything that you would like to leave with us? Any tips or tricks, or just some good motto that you think the audience should know?
I'd say just if for anyone looking to be successful in any sort of way, YouTube or Twitch or otherwise, create what you really enjoy. Um, that even if it's not like an incredibly popular niche or anything like that, at least you're enjoying the journey, because it can be really disheartening if things don't blow up or um hit certain metrics. But if you enjoy the road, then everything will be fine. And there's yeah, there's a number of things these days that didn't exist years ago. Like, for example, there's tournament organizer jobs,
Mhm,
like careers now, and those didn't exist 5+ years ago.
mhm.
So it really helps to be creative. In the early 2010s, I never would have imagined like tournament organizer jobs or things like that. I just knew what direction I generally wanted to go in, and it kind of led me to these things. And I mean, I'm very grateful to be able to be a variety streamer, and it makes me really happy and fulfilled. And it's taken a lot of work for sure.
Mhm.
But like, main motivator is I want to be able to show my daughter that you can make your passion into a career if you really put your mind to it.
Right. Yes, and something that you mentioned earlier was to start um, on the side doing it, and I think that's a really important thing to remember. I think again, it's easy to just say I'm going to jump in and I'm going to do it, but it does take time. And you've spent years developing to the point of where you are now, and it's just important to remember that nothing worth having is always easy. And so sometimes it's easy to forget that in today's world, but definitely something to remember moving forward. Thank you so much
Mhm.
for joining us. I've learned so much, and it was a very interesting conversation. So thank you.
Mhm.
And for all of our viewers, remember that we drop episodes every other week on Wednesdays. So not this Wednesday, but 2 Wednesdays from now, we'll have another episode with another guest.
Mhm. And yeah, thank you for having me. And I'd say I'm always down to help with any advice, whether that's like through like a stream or a DM or anything. Um, I'm an open book, and I'm always eager to help. Like I even have like a few like I guess I would call them like streamer pupils. One of them even calls me sensei. Um, and I just am always eager to help.
Very cool. Everybody remember that all of the links and all of his contact information will be down below. So be sure to check him out and reach out if you have questions or if you just want to know more.
Hmm. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you
Thanks for
again.
having me again.
Yeah. Bye.